The Phoenix Suns have just made history. Since the start of the NBA in 1946, no team has ever had a season as bad as the season the Phoenix Suns just had. This will go down in the history books as the single greatest mismanagement of a franchise in the history of the NBA. For you to understand how bad this Phoenix Suns team is, you have to understand that they started the season by setting an NBA record for payroll, reaching over $408 million, including the luxury tax for the 24-25 season. And what did it get them? 29 teams of the 30 teams in the NBA, as of this moment, are either in the playoffs, the play-in, or the draft lottery. But there's one team that is on the outside looking in. That's right. The most expensive team in the NBA has nothing to show for it and a broken future. And to make matters even worse, the intangibles are terrible in Phoenix. Phoenix was openly shopping Kevin Durant before the trade deadline this year, realizing that this season was going to be a disaster. And Kevin Durant blocked a late mid-season trade that would have sent him to the Golden State Warriors and would have allowed Phoenix to at least begin a rebuild. Instead, Durant said he didn't want to get traded during the midseason, which was a lie. And the Phoenix Suns end the season with basically the same roster that they started with. And I understand they added Nick Richards and made moves around the margins with the Charlotte Hornets. But when your best move in the season is adding a player from the Charlotte Hornets, you're not a real franchise. You're not a serious franchise. Kevin Durant shutting down trades wasn't even the worst player shutting down trades for this Phoenix Suns team. Bradley Beal is holding this team hostage with a no trade clause, openly telling the media that he holds all the power. He holds all the cards, which is absurd because Bradley Beal is the least max player on a max contract since Philadelphia Ben Simmons. Bradley Beal can't guard a WNBA player. Bradley Beal can't guard a bloodlusted Division III player. He's playing no defense, giving you no playmaking and no durability. Missing clutch games, missing key games. And this Phoenix Suns team has had some issues with injury, but they've been mostly intact for this season. This is a failure from the absolute top to bottom for a team with Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant to finish the season going 35-45. You have to ask yourself, how did the Memphis Grizzlies fire their coach heading into the playoffs? How did the Denver Nuggets fire their coach and their general manager heading into the playoffs? And both are intact for Phoenix. I guess you can say it's a good thing that the Suns let Mike Budenholzer get to the offseason. Even though they're still talking about firing him, they at least gave him the dignity of playing out the meaningless string of games. But it's too easy to blame Budenholzer. It's not his fault. There's one person who is responsible for what has happened to the Phoenix Suns. There's one man, and his name is Matt Ishbia, and he is the owner of the Phoenix Suns, a former Michigan State basketball player. He took control of the Suns' future on February 7th, 2023. And at the time, he was buying a team that had just gone to the NBA Finals and kept their core intact. This is a team that had Iron Man Mikal Bridges, talented Cam Johnson, floor general Chris Paul, along with a talented but honestly not work ethic appropriate DeAndre Ayton, and finally Devin Booker. Matt Ishbia took over the Suns on February 7th. It took him less than 48 hours to put the Kevin Durant trade together. And here's the issue. You have billionaires that own these NBA teams, and most of them are smart enough to know what they don't know. But I think the fact that Matt Ishbia played college basketball, even though it wasn't a real college basketball. This is one of those, my daddy donated enough money for there to be a wing named after our family, college basketball players. He thought he was smarter than the league. This billionaire who everything had worked out for him in life, he thought he was going to come in and take over the NBA. And so he tells his general manager, I don't care what you have to do, you trade for Kevin Durant. And the Suns had originally made offers centered around Cam Johnson. The Suns were trying to send Cam Johnson and DeAndre Ayton out for Kevin Durant, but that's not what happened. Because of all the pressure that Ishbia was putting on James Jones, instead of holding out and making the Nets take DeAndre Ayton, making the Nets take Cam Johnson, they included Mikal Bridges, who is not a throw-in. However bad Mikal Bridges is playing on the Knicks right now, there was a moment where he looked like he was good enough to be a first option on the Nets. Not only that, he plays every game. He's young, he's durable, he's on an incredible contract. Maybe he's not worth the 5 first-round draft picks that the Knicks gave up for him, but you don't just throw in Mikal Bridges. But that's what Ishbia did, and he didn't just stop there. He also got rid of DeAndre Ayton. He also got rid of Chris Paul in separate transactions. And when it's all said and done, 1 year later, they trade for Bradley Beal, a player on a max contract with one of the few no-trade clauses in the league. And now we have gone all in on a team that can barely get out of the first round. When it's all said and done, getting out of the first round once is all we're going to see from this trio. And there's no good vibes, there's no good memories, there's no good playoff runs. This is just an example of what happens when a billionaire thinks they're above the game of basketball. When you don't have a general manager that you respect and that you trust, and you give them orders. And I'm sitting here saying this is the worst season of all time in the same season that the Dallas Mavericks traded Luka Doncic in a win-now move, only to see the Mavericks fall to the 10th seed and the Lakers look like a promising 3 seed. To add insult to injury, Chris Paul goes on to play 82 games this season for a San Antonio Spurs team that looked like a contender. It's almost like every single move that the Suns have made has been desperately trying to win now instead of building a team, building a culture, and this is what we have. The only positive asset on this team is Devin Booker, and Devin Booker is a player who has shown maturity, he's shown talent, he's just not good enough to be the best player on a championship contender team. And this version of Kevin Durant is also not good enough to be the best player on a championship contender team. And Bradley Beal never was. So you have 3 Robins on a team. You know what? Honestly, Devin Booker might be Nightwing. He might not even be Robin. I don't want to slander Devin Booker, but the only positive asset on this team is Devin Booker. They're going to get something for Kevin Durant, but the market for him is so weak. Kevin Durant in 2025 in the offseason is not worth what he was when the Suns overpaid for him 2.5 years ago. This is a team that does not control their draft destiny. I want to go back to what I said at the beginning of the video. 29 teams will either be in the playoffs and play-in or in the lottery this year. And at the end of the most expensive season in NBA history, the Phoenix Suns and their fans have nothing to show for it except bad vibes, bad basketball, and the bitter taste of an owner who thought he was smarter than the game of basketball. This is the worst season of all time. If you disagree with me, jump in the comment section. If you watched this far, like and subscribe. This is NBA Trash Talk.